All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your instructor, Pierre Hui, aka Mr. P. The P is for patience. We are doing chapter 5 today with our barber theory study. Who am I? I am a barber instructor of 11 years. I'm a barber of 31 years. And what I do is I help students pass their exams, particularly their theory exams, because what we do on a regular basis is we actually study so you guys are familiar. Okay. That is my purpose, to get you familiar enough with the test that you go in with confidence and you pass with flying colors. All right. Okay. So before we start chapter 5, y'all know what I like to do. I start with the domains of the CIB, which stands for the Candidate Information Bulletin. I usually go over the Candidate Information Bulletin for the state of South Carolina, which is where I'm based and which is where I operate and most of my students operate. Now, if you would like for me to do what I do for your state, just leave me a DM, send me a message. You can find me all platforms at Pierre Hui, Pierrehouey on all platforms, social media wise. Okay, particularly TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, those main three. But you can find me on the other platforms as well. Same thing. If my name is on there, I'm there too. Okay, so feel free to send me a message for your state. All right. So today, chapter 5 kind of goes in a different direction from the scientific concepts. It goes, chapter 4 we completed, which was infection control. Chapter 5 is actually implements, tools, and equipment, which is its own domain. So what we are going to do before we start chapter 5, which, like I said, goes out of order, we are going to find the domain of implements, tools, and equipment and look at its talking points. And here it is. Okay, so for you guys that's on TikTok, you can't see me share my screen. You can join my Facebook. You can go follow me on my Facebook, either Pierre Hui, or I'll even online. You can find either one. I'll even ALLEVEN, like the All Even haircut. I'll even online. You can find me there too as well. And you can follow me there. YouTube, Pierre Hui, as normal. But you can see me share my screen, but you can listen to me talk about it. All right. Part 2 is right here. Implements and equipment. It should say implements, tools, and equipment used in barbering, 10%, which means 10% of the questions that you get on the master hair care, which is what we teach. I tell everybody, go ahead and do master hair care, because most of the studying, I say 70 to 80% of the studying that you're doing for the register, you're doing for the master hair care too. You're just adding a little bit more. You're adding more with chemicals and chemical functions and things like that. So go ahead and do master hair care. It's 110 questions versus 60. So basically it's an added 50 questions, but by the time you study those 60 questions, you're studying the same material, just with a little bit more. All right. With that being said, implements and equipment used in barbering, 10% of your questions. So at 110, you can expect 11, about 10, honestly, 10 to 13 questions about implements and equipment. All right. You only have 2 talking points about those. You got A and B. A is identify the function, purpose, and care of tools used in hair services. And the second, B, is understand and apply safety and sanitation practices for the use of implements and equipment. All right. Now, talking point A is equipment, as in chairs and workstations. 2, implements, as in razor, shears, combs, brushes. 3, supplies and materials, as in towels, drapes, and neck strips. And 4, electrical tools, as in clippers and blow dryers. And the thing is, again, they don't have it right here, but let's talk about the difference. And you really don't see it in the book either. But the difference between a tool and an implement is that a implement doesn't have a motor. It's not motorized and you can't plug it into a wall. A tool, you can plug into the wall, and they usually have something motorized of some sort. Think a blow dryer, clippers, trimmers. Those are tools. Okay. Implements are things like razors, your shears, your combs, your brushes, things of that nature. All right. And that's pretty much what we're going to talk about today. Um, I don't think we'll finish the whole chapter, but we'll get very, very close. All right. Let's start. Introduction. Practice of barbering requires a variety of implements, tools, and equipment. You should strive to purchase high quality items that will perform effectively and safely to get the job done. This does not mean that you have to purchase the most expensive items, but beware of bargains. For example, it is unlikely that a comb that can be bent between your thumb and index finger will actually comb through the hair. Let me say that one again. It is unlikely that a comb that can be bent between your thumb and index finger will actually comb through the hair. We'll come back to that. Low quality implements, tools, and equipment are a waste of time and money and can end up costing more to replace than what you would have spent in the first place. When taken care of properly, well-made implements and tools will provide years of dependable service. Since the variety of choices can be confusing, ask your instructor or an experienced barber to assist you in selecting and purchasing new implements, tools, and equipment. Yeah, I like doing that. If I have a student, I like going to, if we're going to either order or go to a beauty supply store to get what we need, I prefer to go with them and say, okay, don't get that comb. A lot of times it's combs. It's certain combs that we need, especially if you're a quote unquote urban barber. It's certain things that we need. It has to have a certain amount of durability. And like it said in the book, if you can take that comb, I don't have a comb with me right now, but if you can take that comb and you can easily bend it, you can easily do that. You don't need that comb. Pay the money. You can get a good comb. You can get a good comb that does what it needs to do, about $4 or $5. But don't spend $1.50. Don't get these little box of combs that's got like 100 combs in them. All of them suck. They ain't no damn good. Don't get none of those. Get some that what we like to call are durable. And then you have different types of combs that you need for different types of hair. All right. So you have what I'll do a follow-up with this, and I'll show you my combs that I use. It's not many, it's not a lot or anything like that. It's just certain characteristics of it are really, really, really important for what I do. All right. And that goes for other tools and implements and things like that. Welcome to the live, y'all. Thank you for joining. All right. So why would you study implements, tools, and equipment? Here's why. Understanding the purpose and capabilities of your implements and tools will help you select the right tool for the job. Next, knowing the parts of your implements, tools, and equipment will help you understand instructions given during practical work to comply with infection control procedures and to know when an item may need repair or replacement. Next, understanding how to hold and use your implements and tools is critical to achieving desired results. And lastly, using barbering equipment correctly and safely is important to your safety and the comfort and safety of your clients. All right. Okay. So as a barber, your principal tools of the trade are combs, brushes, shears, clippers, outliners, razors. In addition, you will use appliances such as blow dryers and thermal styling tools to perform finishing and styling work on your clients. Choosing the right implement or tool for the job will depend on your understanding of the item's functions and characteristics and how to use it in an effective and safe manner. All right. Now that's us talking about tools. We're going to get into implements and equipment too, because one of the ones that I don't think they talk about enough, we're going to talk about, which are lights, but we'll come back to that. All right. Identifying different types of combs and brushes. Know your comb basics. The combs are made from various materials in different shapes and sizes. A good quality comb is just slightly flexible with smooth, rounded teeth that will comb through the hair without snagging individual strands. Again, slightly flexible with smooth, rounded teeth. That's another thing about those cheap combs. They don't have rounded teeth, and they can be very, very, very abrasive. You know who you will find out how abrasive those combs are? Kids. When you're trying to comb their hair and they doing this, right? Most of the combs used in haircutting measure between 7 and 8 inches with a shape that may be straight, tapered, or handled. The materials used in the construction of the comb determine its characteristics or qualities. All right, so you got four. All right. Hard rubber combs are slightly flexible and durable, but can deteriorate if left in a disinfectant over extended time. Combs made from carbon materials are anti-static, stiff, and heat and chemical resistant. Those are my favorite, by the way. Graphite combs are less rigid than carbon material combs and are heat and chemical resistant. If I come across a graphite comb, I mean, it's really not that much of a difference between carbon and graphite. Um, just whichever one they got available. They usually have more carbon combs available than they have graphite, but I've had graphite combs too. All right. Metal combs can retain heat to help set in a hairstyle. Made from tempered aluminum or other materials, metal combs may corrode in reaction to chemicals such as hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, that's my only complaint with metal combs, but they're good too. All right. The comb teeth. The spacing between the teeth of a comb varies with the style of comb. Many combs are designed with fine or narrow, as in close together teeth at one end, and coarse or wide, farther apart teeth at the other end. Those are my favorite. Like I said, I'll do a follow up and I'll show you two of the main combs that I use like 99% of the time. All right. Other comb styles have uniformly spaced teeth for the entire length of the comb. All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Roger, what's up? Cobain, what's up? Just is that Kassim? What's going on? Thank you for joining the live. All right. The spacing of the teeth is important because the thickness and distribution of the hair strands that flow through the comb can affect your cutting or styling outcomes. For example, combing through a section of hair with the narrow end of the comb merges the hair strands closer together than the wide end of the comb does. Excuse me, y'all. Thus, the narrow end allows for better control of the hair and more precise hair cutting. Generally speaking, combination combs give you the ability to adapt to different densities within the hair without switching combs. Narrow tooth combs can be useful for combing and cutting fine hair texture or when performing detail work. Wide tooth combs are preferable for detangling, creating styling effects, or for distributing product through the hair. Another thing about a wide tooth comb, it's a certain amount. When we do temp fades, like right here, and somebody got a lot of hair, I like to start off with wide tooth combs and then go to denser, narrow tooth combs to finish the fade up, like doing clipper over comb and scissor over comb, things like that. So they both have their reasons. They both have their advantages. All right. Comb styles. Given all the different types of combs available, the most appropriate or best comb to use ultimately depends on the procedure to be performed, the client's hair texture, and the barber's personal preference. All right. A styling or all-purpose comb, usually constructed of both narrow and wide-spaced teeth, is used for general hair cutting and styling. A taper comb can be used for cutting hair in those areas where a gradual blending of the hair is required. The taper end is especially useful when working in tight areas or for trimming mustaches, for tapering necklines, or for blending around the ears. A flat handle comb with evenly spaced teeth works best to achieve a flat top style and is also an option to use in clipper over comb cutting. Wide tooth combs can be used to control large amounts of hair, spread relaxer cream, detangle hair, or comb through curly hair textures. The tail comb is the best choice for sectioning longer hair or when making partings to create subsections, for wrapping the hair on rods or rollers, or for color applications. A hair pick is an effective choice for combing through textured or tightly curled hair. All right. Holding the comb. The correct manner in which to hold the comb will be dictated by the type of comb used, the service being performed, and the dexterity and comfort of the barber. Be guided by your instructor and practice. That's a big deal. That's one that we talk about all the time. And you're always evaluating your technique. And I'm always evaluating my technique, by the way. Okay. Thank y'all for joining the live. Appreciate it. Know your basic brushes. Now let's talk about brushes next. Okay, styling brushes are used to control, smooth, wave, or add fullness to hair or to stimulate the scalp. The choice of bristle texture, spacing, and material will depend on the hair texture, the hairstyle to be achieved, and the barber's personal preference. Most hairbrushes are manufactured with plastic, rubber, wood, excuse me, y'all, wood, or metal bases with natural, synthetic, combined, or metal bristles. Hairbrushes are available in a variety of shapes and sizes for different purposes. Okay, so I have a table that talks about types of brushes, but I'm going to skip that and we'll come back to that later. All right, next we're going to talk about hair cutting shears. All right, your hair cutting shears are one of the most important tools that you will use when performing barbering services. Therefore, your understanding of shears and your ability to select the right type, style, and size that will fit you comfortably is vital to your future success as a barber. You got shear styles. There are two basic styles of shears generally used by barbers. You got the French style with a finger rest or tang for the little finger, which I like. It's more comfortable for my fingers. And the German style without a tang. Barbers often choose the French style because the tang helps to ensure balance and control during cutting, which I agree with. All right. Now you have cast shears and you have forged shears. All right. Let's talk about the differences. Professional hair cutting shears are either cast or forged during manufacture. I don't know who you are. All right. So, cast shears made by heating steel to a liquid form for pouring into a mold. As the metal cools, it expands. This process produces a more porous and weaker steel that does not retain its sharpness. It is more brittle and is likely to chip or break. Because cast shears are less expensive to produce than forged shears, they are also usually less expensive to purchase. All right. We're going to talk about cast shears in a minute. All right. Let me tell you what forged shears are and let's talk a little bit more about the differences. Okay. Forged shears, made by working heated metal into a finished shape through the processes of hammering or compression. In today's shear manufacturing, the metal is either dropped onto a mold to be pounded into the desired shape or is hydraulically pressed into a die mold. The heating and cooling processes are repeated until the desired density, hardness, and shape of the implement has been achieved. A forged shear may be constructed in one or two pieces and is more durable, they stay sharp longer, and is of higher quality than a cast shear. So that's the difference. If you go to the store and you're looking up shears and you say, okay, this one is $20 and this one is $50 and this one is $150 and this one is $250, it refers to the process of how they made it. Okay, that's why those the ones that are more expensive, number one, they already start off sharper, but another thing too, they can be sharpened as you go. So you can have those for a long time. Like the pair of shears that I have that I think I paid about $120, which it sounds like a lot. It's not a lot, especially when you consider I done had them things for about, I know, at least 7, 8 years. And I just get them sharpened once or twice a year and they good as new. Now, if I got cast shears, imagine them being made like in an assembly line. You can get, I'm not saying that you can't get a $20 pair of shears and get them sharpened. But here's the thing, they're not going to last long. And they're going to, instead of doing their purpose, they're going to be snagging hair. And then you got to try to get them sharpened again. But like I said, with that cheap design, you really just tearing down on the shears when you sharpen them. So they're not going to have as much use. Like I can imagine you getting a $20 pair of shears right now, getting them sharpened for like 10, 15 bucks. And then they might last you a year. And then guess what you got to do the next year? You got to do it all over again. They might not even last you a year before you be like, okay, these things ain't really cutting anything. Like they're snagging hair, they're pulling hair, things like that. So that's something to think about when you're dealing with shears. I have a mentor of mine, one of my OGs, my girl, Michelle. Okay. Michelle Caracino. You know, I always get your last name wrong, Michelle. But anyway, she is the owner of Palmetto Style Salon, Spartanburg and in Taylor. So anyway, I seen her. She has a whole bag that she just rolls it. It looked like how a surgeon will roll their bag and they have all their tools. She got all kinds of different shears. All of them are forged shears. I would say that collection is worth thousands of dollars. I know she spends very, very good money, but she uses her shears damn near 10 cuts a day, 10 high price cuts a day. Yeah, so that's how far that goes. Just something to think about. All right, now let's talk about the basic parts of hair cutting shears. Hair cutting shears are composed of two blades called the moving blade and the steel blade that are fastened with a tension screw or adjustment knob. Other basic parts of the shears include the points, the cutting edges, the shanks, bumper, finger grip, thumb grip, and finger rest, which we call the tang. Let's take a closer look at these features and other important information that you need to know. So you got the shear blades. The cutting edge is the part of the blade that does the cutting. The grind refers to the inside construction of the blade and the way it is cut in preparation for sharpening and polishing. The flat grind is traditionally associated with beveled shears, while hollow ground blades typically a feature of convex shears. There are also shear designs with replaceable blades that eliminate the need for sharpening. I've used all of them. And basically, if one, what's up, bro? I forgot to call you, man. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, I will give you a call after this live. If y'all are not following Cozy Barber for your barbering content, go follow him. Fantastic barber and now a fantastic instructor. Okay. But yeah, I've used all these different kinds. I've used flat grinds with beveled shears. I've used hollow ground blades for convex shears. Basically, what I go by is it doing the job I needed to do? And if the answer is yes, then I just keep them. If the answer is no, then I'll just switch to some that get the job done for me. But I have used different ones, and they're fine. All of them are fine. Blade edges. The cutting edges may be convex, beveled, or semi-convex in design. Now, this might come down to how much shear cutting you're doing on a regular basis and what kind of textures are you doing. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, baby? Actress Tonya. Everybody go follow my friend, my fine ass friend, Actress Tonya lady. Been a minute. How are you doing? All right. So I'll tell you what we do. We will talk about, we'll compare the blade edges. Cause like I said, I've seen people use different shears and like, just if you're doing shear cutting all day, that's when this matters a little bit more. If you're using shear cutting, say like, you're trying to sculpt the afro or you cutting somebody's beard or something like that, it doesn't matter as much. It does make a difference, but you may not be aware of the difference until you do a whole lot of shear cutting. So that's why I keep coming back to these. But all right, let's talk about a convex edge. Let's talk about a bevel edge. So a convex edge has very sharp edges. A bevel edge has serrated edges. A convex edge will glide through the hair easy. A bevel edge will hold hair on the blade edge and it reduces slippage. So slippage just means like if you was doing shear work on somebody's afro and you're trying to cut it and it feel like their hair scoots back, you're going to need a certain edge that's going to stop that effect. Oh, you are very welcome. You are very, 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 very welcome. I'm gonna try not to flirt on here this morning. Okay, I'm gonna stop telling you. I'm gonna quit. All right. Convex edge cuts hair. It cuts the hair shaft very cleanly. The bevel edge grips the hair shaft for cutting. The convex edge has less tension when used when cutting. The bevel edge, you use more tension when you're cutting. The convex edge is good for dry, wet, and slide cutting. The bevel edge is not intended for slide cutting. Slide cutting is like, just imagine somebody has very long hair, right? Yeah, just think a lot of times like actresses, right? Actresses that'll have fine hair and they'll have a bang, but it may be down here, but then it goes really long down here. Well, we'll pretend my fingers are shears. and you take those and you slide it. You don't close it all the way. You close it enough that it just slides down and it blends in whatever this bang area with this side that comes down, okay? Convex edges that's what they're for. Bevel edges are not for that. Not to say, though, a good pair of bevel edges, you can get that done. Tam, what's up, baby? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. If y'all not following, I am pretty. This like fellow instructor in the building, fellow braider, loctician, natural stylist, all that good stuff. I miss you. I miss you. It's good to see you. How you doing? All right, convex edge. Good for dry, wet, and slide cutting. The bevel edge is not intended for slide cutting. We just talked about that. Convex edge, reduce noise while cutting. The bevel edge, the serrations create some noise while cutting, but nothing to be noticeable. All right. Convex edge, more subject to nicks than beveled blade for sure. Especially right here, past that second knuckle. If you cutting, stop at that second knuckle right there. You go past there, you do that at your own risk. Well, I did it at my own risk. I cut myself a bunch of times with a good pair of shears. All right. Good to know about the shears. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Convex edge, sharpen every 4 to 6 months. Bevel edge, sharpen every 9 to 12 months. All right. And like I said, I would love to do a follow-up with some of these shears. Pretty much just show you the ones I got. I don't have many. I got like 2 or 3. I got two regular shears, and I have texturizing shears, and I'll show you the difference when I actually do the live and do the follow-up where I just show you some of my equipment. Thank you for the likes. Thank you very, very much. All right. Let's see. Do we need to go? Yeah. All right. We'll go a little bit more and then we'll stop for today. All right. Outside of a convex blade edge has a clamshell or half moon shape, and the inside is concave or hollow ground. This arrangement produces a smoother or sharper cutting blade that requires more frequent sharpening than bevel edges. A bevel edge means there's an angle on the cutting surface of the blade. Bevel edges can be plain ground with smooth, polished, or razor edge surfaces. Bevel shears usually have one plane and one corrugated blade. The design of the corrugations helps to hold the hair in place and to prevent it from sliding on the blade while it is being cut. A bevel edge will stay sharper longer than a convex blade, but tends to require more tension when cutting hair. A semi-convex blade consists of a convex blade that has a bevel ground onto the blade edge. This design reduces production costs and extends the time in between sharpening. That's very true. Very true. All right. Set. The set of the shears refers to the angle of the blade from its tip to the ride and the alignment of the blades in relation to each other. This alignment is just as important as the grind of the blades because even shears with the finest cutting edges will be inferior cutting tools if the blades are not set properly. I couldn't agree more. Tension also affects the set and alignment of the blades and should be checked frequently. All right. Tension screw. The tension screw or the knob, also called a pivot screw, controls the distance between the blades. I tend to start off and just keep it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. See, y'all see why I love Tanya so much? I'm pretty sure y'all see why I love Tanya so much. All right. The shank is located between the ride and the base of the finger grip. When the ring finger is positioned properly in the finger grip, the index and middle fingers will rest on the shank. Now, the finger grip and the tang. The finger grip or ring is the part of the steel blade of the shears where you position your ring finger, grip to, between the first and second knuckle. To use your shears properly and to maintain control, do not use your middle finger or allow the finger grip to slide past the second knuckle of your ring finger. The finger tang is where your little finger can rest for greater control of the shears and to relieve pressure on your nerves and tendons. And if you want, just look that up on YouTube. There are a lot of guys that show you, put that in practice, and they put that in action, and they're very, very, very well at what they do. As a matter of fact, golly, man, I don't know if this guy is Russian. I want to say he's Russian, but I love watching his videos. His name is Maxim Nikitochkin. I want to say that's how you pronounce his last name. But you can just look up Maxim, Maksim, and then just look up his shear work. His shear work is unmatched. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of all his styles and like the cuts that he produces or anything like that. But what I will say, he is top tier in producing all those cuts. He knows his way around a pair of goddamn shears. Y'all should check that man out. All right. Okay. Thumb grip. The thumb grip or ring is a part of the moving blade of the shears. Your thumb will control the moving blade and should rest no lower than your cuticle within the grip. Bumper. The bumper is usually positioned on the thumb grip to prevent the grips from touching when the shears are completely closed. And last, you have size and handle designs. Shears are available in a variety of lengths and are measured in inches and half inches. Convex shears are measured from the tip to the end of the finger ring where it joins the finger rest. Beveled shears are measured from the tip to the end of the finger rest as well. Most barbers prefer shears that are 6.5 to 7.5 in length because they facilitate shear over comb cutting better than shorter shears. I agree. Handle designs. 3 standard handle designs are the opposing grip, the offset grip, and the crane grip. In the opposing handle design, the finger and thumb grips are positioned directly across from each other. The offset handle design has a shorter thumb shank to reduce overextension and is considered to be more ergonomically correct than the opposing design. The crane handle also has offset grips, but the angle of the finger grip is less in relation to the center of the shears and the thumb grip. This reduces pressure and stress in the hand and thumb. And I agree. I tend to like the offset, either the offset or the crane, simply because my wrists haven't been 100% in years. I used to play basketball. I felt at different times, I fell on my wrist. I hurt my wrist real bad, and they've never been 100% since then. So I like the crane grip. It's just you can just, like, for the time being, you can just look them up. But yeah, those grips, basically, if I'm doing a lot of shear work, it don't hurt my wrists. My wrists are not hurting. So basically, you have to figure out which one works for you. And it also depends on, again, how much shear work are you using. Okay. Shakira, thank you for joining the live. Well, you don't have a name. You got a bunch of emojis, but thank you for joining the live. All right. Texturizing, thinning, and blending shears, which I love these. All right. Texturizing, thinning, and blending shears are designed with blades that have teeth of varying widths and distances between them. The wider the spacing of the teeth, the more hair is removed during cutting. The greater the number of teeth, the more finely the hair strands can be cut without leaving noticeable cut marks. Although the terms texturizing shears, thinning shears, and blending shears tend to be used interchangeably, there are some differences in their designs. Okay, so here are the differences, and we'll stop here. Okay, so texturizing shears are, you can also refer to them as chunking shears. You will know when you look at the teeth of them. All right. 5 to 9 widely spaced teeth. They create patterns and textures in hair. Texturizing shears, 14 to 28 medium width teeth. Differences in hair lengths are visible, adds texture and volume. Thinning and blending shears have 30 to 50 thin, narrowly spaced teeth that eliminate visible lines in hair. They may be designed with teeth on one or both blades, used for blending hair ends and removing bulk or weight. Okay, so think about you cutting somebody with fine hair. They could be somebody Mexican, they could be somebody Puerto Rican, they could be somebody Dominican, they could be somebody Caucasian. You're cutting that hair and you're trying to blend that line. A lot of times we're trying to use a lot of quote unquote urban barbers. So urban mean more than black, but we'll just say a bunch of urban barbers are trying to blend those lines, and it's like you're trying to use guards to blend that line or blend those lines, but that texture of hair, that's going to be too blunt. You're going to need something that's more subtle and softer in nature. Well, you're texturizing, you're thinning, and you're blending shears, different different shears create different effects when it comes to blending. Sometimes you can use texturizing shears. Sometimes you can use thinning and blending shears. Again, the difference is what kind of space in the teeth do they have? Do they have 5 to 9 teeth? Do they have 14 to 28? Do they have 30 to 50? Somewhere around there. And also, again, you know, the teeth may be on both blades. I used to have a pair. Those were my favorite for getting that blend in there with those finer hair textures. It had they were blended shears, but they had narrow teeth on the one end of the blade, and then the other end of the blade it had teeth as well, but they were less narrow. So it's kind of like a combination, but they were on both sides of the blade. Man, I could blend and blend and blend to my heart's content with those. All right. Okay. With that being said, this will conclude today's session, 6/22/26. We will be back to finish the rest of implements, tools, and equipment, and we will talk more about it. If you or anybody you know can use my help, especially with passing these exams, especially with theory, I can be reached all platforms at Pierre Huey, Pierrehouey. You can find me anywhere. Just leave me a DM. Just tell me what you got going on, your state, which exam are you taking? Because I do private study sessions with registered barber in addition to master hair care. And you know, we'll chop it up. Okay. Till next time, you guys. I'm your instructor, Pierre Huey, aka Mr. P. The P is for patience. You guys have a wonderful Monday. Peace.